All right. It is with trepidation I ever repeat like a metaphor or a story. I know I've done it, but I always do it relatively slowly. I want to make sure I space something out. And it's been well over a year since I've used this metaphor. And I got permission from Bible study. They said if we have to hear the Christmas story every year, we can hear this one again. So, while we're talking about membership, because it's not a repeating of a story or a sermon, because I don't have that script anymore. I don't write them word for word. I've got plenty of new material. I want to talk about organizations, whether it's your family, your workplace, the places you volunteer. This framework that I'm about to share with you, I will be using primarily church life, but honestly, I can talk about my family, I can talk about just about any workplace environment in this way. I assume when you come into a church, when you join an organization, there are 4 seats at a table. We're going to start this table and we're going to work our way through it. Now you got a framework of how long this is going to be if there's 4 chairs. So you can start doing that kind of math and organizational structure. Our first chair, the 4th seat. I'm just going to start with number 4. The 4th seat is your elders. Now, in United Methodism, elders is a whole nother word, but I'm using it for here. Your longtime member. Somebody who's been around for a while. They served in leadership way back when. They have had every hat, and now they're they're still coming. They're still giving. The gift that this seat has for an organization, your elders, your long-term members, when things are good, when things are bad, it's a steady hand. The gift of an elder in a congregation is that when things get rough, when the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune rise up in a congregation, maybe there's a staff person or a pastor you don't really care for. The elder has been there before. Oh, and I already want to start off. This has nothing to do with age. I had a confirmation student look me in the eyes, this 8th grade girl looked me in the eyes and said, "Pastor, my grandfather built this church. My dad is the chair of council. We will outlast you." She's a pastor now, so joke's on her. Anyway, this seat, the elder, valuable, right? Because they know you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, in each chair, there's a ditch that they can get into. The ditch being, because it's the same thing as their strength. Because they have seen it, because they've been around the block, because they know what has happened in the past. When something new happens, when something exciting happens, they can be slow to change. When change is desperately needed, when something has to happen, nope. Maybe because when they look at the church, I can even use, this takes away the age. That 8th grade confirmation student, when she looked around the church, well, she saw her grandpa over there. She saw her great-grandma over there. Even though they're no longer in the building, when she looks around that congregation, when she looks in that space, it's not pews, it's the place she grew up. And so to speak to changing that feels like you are trying to change them. The sermon, you get 4 sermons today. Actually, you get 5. 4 sermons today. The sermon to the elder. Everything that you have ever given, everything, every penny you have put in the collection plate, every moment that you sat on that committee, even when it went totally into the dumps, even if you served in a church as a leader that closed. Every offering that you gave mattered. If we believe in a God that says that death is not the end, that life is everlasting, if the God that we worship stands outside of time, then every human effort, every ounce of grace, every creative endeavor to add beauty and justice and mercy to the world is held, graced, and embraced by that loving God. And that God is challenging you to take one step more, even as an elder. Yeah, elders. I don't have a good, church name for this seat yet. I want to call them, the best word I came up with was stakeholder. Now, that's me on a Friday night. I get a steak and I hold it in my face. No, the stakeholder being you are wildly invested. This is a part of who you are. Your attendance is pretty dang good. You're making most Sundays. You joined a committee and you have an opinion there. You are taking minutes. You sing in the choir once in a while. You have an opinion, you got kids in the program. You've invited others to come to church. This person, if you are a long-time church member, or a long-time organizational structure in your business, this is the employee who goes above and beyond. This is the supervisor who has your back no matter what. This is the sweet spot for a lot of folks because this person knows what's going on. Ooh. A conversation to be had right now. Whether you're in church, your family. This is the adults, but not quite the grandparents sometimes, depending on who you are. Right? The elders and the stakeholders, those in the thrall of it, those who are fighting for it, those who are in the midst of the mess, and those who have some distance. The conversation right now, if you are in any kind of an organization, whether it's a family, a job, a church, this conversation, life after COVID feels so much different. The people in this seat are expressing an exhaustion that they've never experienced before. You might have been a stakeholder before COVID and thought you were tired, and then you were a stakeholder through COVID, and now it feels like, not another thing, please. And sometimes, here's my word to my elders. This isn't the sermon, this is my encouragement. Elders, love your stakeholders. The thing about elders to stakeholders, elders will look at stakeholders and go, I remember those days. You don't know how good you have it until they're over. That was fun when it was happening. Do that. Share that energy with stakeholders. They are so overwhelmed, they want to jump into your seat real fast. The ditch, because everybody's got ditches, they are so involved, they are so invested, they have so much on the line. Same thing, their strength can be their downside. That when the congregation does something that they don't agree with, when the pastor gives a sermon that they just can't get over, the tendency is it feels like a threat to everything they've put in. You can sense that there's a fear that they will take what they have and leave. The strength of this seat is that this is the chair, depending on how this is understood in your organization, in your family, and in your church, this is the chair that really sets the culture. The air in the room. And you can even say, this isn't even just like church in general. It can feel like this in the choir. It can feel like this in your book study. It can feel like this in confirmation classes or in the Sunday school. This sets the air in the room. What's the expectation level? Sermon to seat 3. You are enough. Just you. It's not your gifts that you bring to the church that make you valuable. It's not the money. I mean, we like it. It's not the hours of volunteering. We like that too. It's not the leadership and the steady hand and the guidance that you offer. All very good things. But God loves you just as you are. None of that is required for God to love you. If this is too much, if what you are putting into the church is too much, you didn't come to die for the church. We already have a Messiah, and you don't fit in his seat. Yeah. I apologize already to our camera person, and it's going to get so much worse. Just a heads up, camera person. Seat two. This is your member. This is this person, they're not here yet. They're just getting involved. They know some of the Methodist lingo. They know what a conference is. And they know it's not the thing you did in St. Louis. It's the thing that we have for the meeting every year. The person here, they understand that my boss, being called a bishop, isn't a chess piece. The seat 2 has been around enough, and whether they've been in a Methodist system or whether they've been in Spirit of Hope for a while, they kind of get it. And they're being involved. And they have fresh ideas too. They're still up there going, I don't understand why we can't change this aspect. The questions that they bring to meetings are incredibly valuable because they have some setting of context. They know a little bit to really change things. If you have a lot of people in an organization like a church sitting here, you can feel it in the air. This is what, like, a lot of your pastors have probably wanted to fill the church with. I mean, this is great, but this makes you feel like you're making an impact because you're getting people on board. You've got people who are excited and who are showing up to stuff. Seat 2, the ditch for seat 2, new member. They haven't developed the deep relationships whereby they can resist the storm. For seat 3, if something happens, sometimes the temptation is to abuse power. They have influence, they have energy, like that's the ditch for seat 3. That can be a temptation. For seat 2, when you don't have the deep relationships, I can go to another church. They haven't settled into a place where they feel like they've been missed. In family systems, this is when if you had a child who brought home a spouse to be, when your children started dating and they brought home their first girlfriend or boyfriend, what was that like? The matriculation process. When the person brought someone new to the family, you probably kept your family traditions, but you slightly adapted them. Maybe the day changed. Maybe when you gathered, because you wanted to fit them in. You made the efforts. If this chair, you don't know completely, they're not quite stakeholders yet, but we want to make sure that they're here. And that's what gives me the sermon for seat 2. You have everything you need to follow Jesus and make a difference here. You don't have to wait till you're in seat 3 to raise your hand and say, I don't understand why the church doesn't make this improvement. You don't have to be an elder to help set policy or to participate in the very life of the church. You are qualified just as you are. In fact, what makes you different, what makes you feel like you're not here setting culture just yet, the fact that you don't have it all figured out, like that seat 3 has it all figured out, that is part of what makes you so valuable to the life of the organization. Yeah. Lastly, the beginners. In video games, we call them noobs. Gotcha. I wanted to get one person. Okay. The newbies. This seat, in a Christian context, man, if you are over the age of 50, this primarily hasn't existed much in your local church setting. Because most of you, if you're over the age of 50, you grew up where church was a part of culture, a part of greater American church. Even if you didn't believe in church, church was what you did on Wednesday nights. Church was where you were on Sunday mornings. This seat, when I think of a noob, I'm thinking of somebody who's like, wait, if I'm joining Spirit of Hope, do I have to come every Sunday? Be nice. Sundays happen every 7 days. What? This seat, when you have a new member class, one church, I'm like, if you want the information, it's down in the narthex about joining the church. Person comes up to me, the narthex? Isn't that the Dr. Seuss character who speaks for the trees? Like, they have the vocab is just not there. And you want to know what? That's great. These folks, if they dare to come to church, when they dare to sit at our table, the gift that they give is for all 3 of these seats. You don't get to be comfortable in your explanation. When you say, I value church, why? Well, it gives God is the ground of being, and it gives meaning to my life. What does that mean? I just feel like a community there. How? For this seat, they come in with all the questions. And they're looking for a welcome from the other 3 seats. That's the real challenge. I mean, seat 4, it's not a ditch. It's a feature. Because this seat should be rotating. You want a healthy rotation of people who have never experienced Christian faith, Spirit of Hope in terms of its way we experience Methodism, the Methodist Church. You want somebody who can ask, why do we do it this way? That is what will keep you young at heart. Because you will have to stay mobile and nimble in your meaning. The sermon for number 4, the one I think I'm most comfortable giving, there's room for you. There's absolutely room for you. I get such joy out of having different folks really need somewhat simple explanations. And frankly, my friends who are over 50, this is a growing population. If you were a Christian in the 90s or in the early 2000s, there was this really push and pull, and it kind of feels like it's sometimes in culture, like there's a fight with, if you say you're a Christian, and even a progressive, but we're a progressive one, but a Christianity still has this like fight and tension in the public atmosphere. The younger you go, there's not as much animosity. That means there's fertile ground. The sermon to number 4, there's room for you. There's absolutely room for you. Now, you have the 4 seats. Why do you exist? Your family. Why does your family come together? For the nourishment, for the growth of every member in it, for their well-being. Why does your business need to exist? Probably to make money, to offer that good or service to the world, and to help people make a living. Why does the church exist? To fill these chairs? Not really. Part of it, that's part of the organization, like, if we don't keep the table, if we don't, but that's not the purpose. And I love it that we're doing this on, this is why I did it today. So it's, why did you stay at this table? Well, because you found something. You found forgiveness for the sins you've committed. You found a connection to God, whether it was through art, music. You felt your spirits lifted somehow. This was a place that welcomed your child into the family of Christ. This is where you suddenly were able to look at the world in a different way. This was the first time that you saw your sexuality to be hidden but celebrated as part of the life of God. This was a place that you found something. And here in a Methodist church, we talk about how that is exemplified in the body of Christ. Everything that you have found in church is poured into this holy sacramental meal. And the purpose of church, and I picked this bag specifically, Starbucks, right? For the chair out there, past our parking lot, we're taking what we have found, a piece of what we have found, we put it somewhere where people will actually receive it. Where's that flower? Over there. We're putting it somehow, this is what I was talking about, sorry, camera person. Or we slap this here on it, and we say, this is what we're here for. We take this right out the building to somebody, not so that they come back. If they come back to this table, great. Great. I hope they do. But it's not the purpose. The purpose is to share what you have found. Because what you have found is so good you can't help but share it. You look and you see somebody, what they need is more forgiveness in their life. What they need is a place to practice generosity. What they need is a chance to hear something beautiful, that's meaningful, that'll lift their spirits. We live in a world that has been soaked in darkness, chaos, that seems to thrive on viral negative rhetoric, but here you hear about a God that loves us just as we are, that isn't dependent on our circumstance or what we do, but loves you just as you are and values all of your gifts. This we take out to the world. And that is why we have gathered at this table. If there was a sermon, and that the sermon for those out there isn't one they're going to hear from me. The sermon for the folks out there is the ones that you live with your life. I pray for the God of all grace to nourish those gifts within you. Amen.